All right, Bulls and Bears, we're back with another dose. I hope everyone's having a great holiday. Wonderful, what is this, the 29th, folks. Couple days left in the year, and I hope it's been a good one for you, and I hope you're ready for 2025. I'm going to try to be more positive. I'm going to make a early New Year's resolution. I'm going to try to be more positive, and I'm not going to wait till New Year's. I'm going to start today. So I'm going to put a positive twist on the news stories today. I'll attempt to. Maybe you can let me know how I could be more positive down below. I'm just going to go through the news, the information, and try to put a positive view on the news, right? So maybe I've been responsible for putting a negative light on some of the news as far as the economy, the economic financial news. When it comes to investing, things are going pretty good. I happen to be a cautious investor at this moment because I think there's a lot of risks out there. But overall, 2024 was a very good year, especially with XRP and some cryptos. XRP went up 6 times, like over 600% from what I bought it at. So it was an amazing year for investing. But I don't just look at things from my own little bubble. I look at things as far as the population goes, like most people, like the 300 plus something million people in the United States, and 7 billion globally right now. Try to focus mostly on the United States because there's only so much news you can cover, right? And most people are more interested in news that affects them, news around them. And most of my viewers happen to be in the United States. So, by the way, thanks for being here. Let's go ahead and get started. And I hope everyone's having a happy holiday season. Happy holidays and all that good stuff. Let's go ahead and get started, though, right here with what I think is maybe some positive news. Not all Big Lots stores will close. The retailer strikes a deal to keep open 400 stores. Now, that may be good news to you if you were a fan of Big Lots. If you didn't like Big Lots, if you're not a fan, in fact, if you dislike them, thought they were overpriced, this may be bad news. So one person's good news is somebody else's bad news. So you might want to think about that when you accuse me of, of being negative. A deal was struck. 400 stores will remain open. Personally, I think Big Lots was kind of overpriced. The retailer on Friday announced a transaction with Boston-based asset liquidation firm Gordon Brothers Retail Partners, resulting in the transfer of between 200 and 400 Big Lots stores to Variety Wholesaler Inc. The question is, what are they going to change the trajectory that store was on? The stores mostly were losing money because of shrinkage and theft and lots of other things. I think they had bad pricing. Basically, I think their prices made them uncompetitive with big retailers like Target and Walmart, right? When I go to a retailer, when I go to a store like Big Lots, a smaller store, I want to get a good deal. And I want to find things that I can't find at the other stores. I want to find different things, right? How many people are tired of shopping in the same stores, seeing the same old products and brands and merchandise? And then you go to another store, maybe Big Lots, you say, well, this is different. I haven't seen this anywhere. But then if the prices aren't good, right? The price can be a little higher if it's something unique, right? I've done that. I paid a little more for something that was different, little different than what you could find at Walmart. Where is it in my back east? Meijer. The Meijer stores, kind of like Walmart. Department stores. Target, Kmart. Kmart's gone, but you know what I mean. Walmart, much cheaper than Big Lots for most things. I used to go to Big Lots maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I would find things that are actually cheap, not just different, but cheaper than Walmart in some cases. But that changed. Everything became more expensive. What they said here in California with the stores that were closing, we talked about it here. We even showed you the interview from the CEOs, or from the CEO and some of the branch managers. And what they had said was shrinkage, people stealing. Well, that could be changing because California just made it a felony for certain retail thefts. It used to be you can take up to $900 something and basically not even get a slap on the wrist. It was like you get a citation, and then if you didn't show up for your court date, nothing would happen really. But they're going to be changing that, so they actually have changed it, and it's already had an effect here. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. So will that be something that would make Big Lots be able to stay open? And with more enforcement now of people just taking things without paying for them. Would this enable stores like Big Lots to maintain their profitability and not have to raise their prices so much? You see, when people take stuff from the store is losing money. What are they going to do? Well, in order to try to stay open, they're probably going to raise their price on everything else. And to me, that's what looks like what happened with Big Lots, right? It wasn't a coincidence that when we saw this rapid retail theft increase starting, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it's no coincidence that at that time, prices really started going up. Now, we had overall inflation for other reasons too that we all know here because we talk about them every day, but prices went up. But a big part of that, many would agree, maybe 25% of that or more was the shrinkage because of people taking stuff without paying for them. And then the stores had to raise their prices, and it created more of a dangerous situation for workers. Workers already wanted higher wages because the cost of living was so much. But when you factor in the danger with, you might work at one of these stores and all kinds of people are going to come in, like 50 people come in and start looting the store, that adds on a whole new risk on taking the job, right? If you ask me, I'd rather work in an office somewhere than at a retail store. And then when the retail stores don't pay as much, they had to start paying more to these people, bottom line. And that's another struggle that retailers had. They had to pay these workers more to keep them from leaving. And of course, we see all the strikes happening right now. We see what's happening with the labor force, people demanding higher wages, the high cost of living. But anyways, retailers struggling, but a little bit of good news. If you're a fan of Big Lots, are you a fan of Big Lots? I used to be. Maybe I will be again if this helps. But for my area here in Southern California, San Diego area, it seems to be too little too late. All the Big Lots around that I know about are already liquidated. But if they haven't ended the lease, maybe they can restock the stores and open them back up for business. So anyways, we'll have to see how it goes. We'll have to keep an eye on it for you. But here's something very interesting, I think that ties in with that previous story. Alleged shoplifters learn retail crime is now a felony. There's videos out now showing suspects surprised to hear about the new law. A lot of people just went in and took stuff, thought there was going to be no consequences. Folks, if there's no consequences, then it's not going to stop. It's just going to get worse, right? Simple. Even my 11-year-old daughter can understand that. So why couldn't California lawmakers and California leaders understand that? What's their motive behind just letting people just take things without any consequences? All right, let's hear how one of the local reports went as far as this topic goes and retail situation.
It's been 10 days since Prop 36 went into effect. It's a law that cracks down on theft and drug crimes.
Local law enforcement agencies have already been making arrests under that new law. Your reporter Kayla Mueller is live in West Sacramento getting answers on how these agencies have been responding. Kayla.
Yeah, Ashley, I reached out to 5 local agencies today, and most of them tell me that they are already seeing the impacts of this new law. And I focused today
already, and it only got passed, in early November?
On the retail side of things.
She's out in front of Walmart. Walmart that I went to here a while back said that they had $1.5 million in losses for the year.
Talk to
because of that.
Some of these folks that are committing these crimes, they are also becoming more aware of these new laws. They are also having second thoughts.
Prop 36 became law on December 18th. The result is a harsher punishment when it comes to drug crimes and retail theft. The Sac County Sheriff's Office says the biggest impacts have been arrests and
citizen law enforcement right there.
Sentencings.
11 days ago, we were issuing citations to a lot of these folks and then kicking them on their way. A lot of these crimes are now felonies, so they can actually go to jail, spend some time in jail. I
would probably help out too if I saw somebody stealing stuff, if I knew I wasn't going to get in trouble, because they can press charges against you. Some of these people stealing stuff, believe it or not, they were pressing charges against the security and against people trying to stop them, which was ridiculous. But we pay for it. People that pay for your merchandise, you're paying extra because of everybody else getting the stuff for free. And you can expand that out to a larger view of society as a whole. But when it comes down to the retail situation where you're paying more, it's pretty easy to see and figure out. Businesses have to charge more. When they're losing money over here, they have to make money over there. Otherwise, they're out of business. And I've seen plenty of stores go out of business, so it should be no mystery to anybody, but people are still scratching their heads about this. All right, people, moving on a little bit here to some other topics. On the topic of banking, and we know that banking is the backbone of the entire economy. For those here that are here for the financial news, we know that the banks being able to loan out endless amounts of money can keep the economy looking like it's growing, because a growing economy is based on if people are continuing to spend. And if banks don't have to have any money held in capital or reserves, they can keep loaning out money, and that's what's been happening since 2020. But recently, the stress tests have started to include some capital requirements for the banks. And the banks don't like that. We talked about this, 1 or 2 reports ago. Banks are actually suing the central bank after stress tests overly restricts bank capital. So that's the thing. They're being more restrictive in the stress test. Now, it doesn't mean they have to have the money set aside. It just means that when the stress tests are implemented, they're going to have a lower score. A lot of people say the stress tests are meaningless because nothing's going to happen anyway, because the banks are too big to let drop, to let go under. But it is something that's pretty interesting to watch the news on. I will have to keep an eye on it here. Here's how they put it over at Mint. The U.S. banks sue the Fed after stress tests overly restricts bank capital report. U.S. banking associations and business groups sued the central bank after a stress test overly restricted capital. That was reported here. Banking associates that represent big banks like Chase, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, American Bankers Association, Ohio Bankers League. The suit aims to, quote, resolve a long-standing legal violations by subjecting stress test process to public input as required by federal law. The banking groups also said that they're not opposing the annual stress test, but they said the current process, procedures facilitating, and unexplained requirements and restrictions on bank capital. So they're not being clear enough. They're being vague. Anyways, I think it's a nothing burger, because if the banks are going to be rescued no matter what, no matter how many bad loans, 100% of the people can default on the loans, meaning the bank should go out of business. But if they're just going to be propped up, then the stress tests to me are just a big kind of a dog and pony show. What's the expression go? Is it dog and pony? Anyways, it doesn't matter. It's an old time saying. I think my dad used to say something like that. It's an old timer thing to say. Dog and pony show, is that it? Please let me know down in the comments. I probably shouldn't say the old timer thing because I'm getting older myself here, as we all are. But I hope you're healthy anyways. Moving on here. Insurance crisis. This is a hidden crisis in housing. Places where disasters hit, like wildfires, floods, hurricanes, etc., are seeing very difficult times. Homeowners, in some cases, cannot get insurance for the homes. Other times they can get it, but it's so expensive they can't afford it. So it's only going to be the multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies, investors that come in, that are going to come in and buy these homes and be able to afford the insurance. So it's driving prices up so high, not just for the homes, but for the insurance. But that's a carrying cost of the home. You have to look at all the carrying costs of owning a home. So the insurance factored in there, it's continuing to rise. People that have never had a claim on their home are also paying the price, because the state is basically the disaster zone. So even if you've never had a claim, your insurance could go up just on what happens in other parts of the state. So people that don't live on the coast of Florida, people up in the Panhandle that never saw any wind damage in 50 years, they're in many cases going to get hit with a much bigger price increase in the insurance because of everything else that happened throughout the state. Same thing in California. There's people that have never had a fire within 50 miles of their home, but they're going to pay higher prices because of what happened in the other areas of California. California is a big state, so it makes it even worse. But that's how the insurance thing works. You have an insurance commission in each state that looks at all the different companies and how much claims they pay out. Companies have to submit their reports on how much claims they pay out to get their rate increases approved by the state insurance commission. And in most cases, the state approves it. And here's how Bloomberg put it. Bloomberg says, hidden crisis in housing. When the smoke clears, 11 million people that live in California's high-risk zones will be affected by this. 11 million, that's a lot of people, folks. And it's pretty amazing that people are still keeping their head above water with the cost of everything, and now the high cost of insurance just continues to go higher each year. The carrying cost, HOA fees are going up for most people, not just by a little, but by a lot. And when you look at a lot of these increases, HOA increases, insurance increases, they're outpacing the official inflation rate, which they're telling us is between 2 and 3%, a little over 3%. And we know that the official numbers are very, very manipulated and flawed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. How are these people going to continue to afford this? Or will it just be a bunch of multi-billionaires that come in and buy these homes and this property? Remember, a lot of people couldn't even rebuild. They had to move out of California because they couldn't afford to rebuild. And who's going to buy this land, and what are they going to do with the land? Are they going to rebuild? Is it just going to be kept vacant? If it's kept vacant, that's going to be another inflationary force, because that's going to be another millions of acres of homes that are not going to be there, or millions of acres of property that are not going to be built. There'll be no homes built on these properties, is what I'm trying to say. Speaking of high home prices, look at this. This was pretty shocking to me. I mean, we shouldn't be shocked at this, but cities that saw a doubling in their home prices in the last 10 years. Tampa, St. Pete, Florida, 183% with the median price now at $410,000. Orlando, Kissimmee, Florida, Kissimmee, $442,000, now it's 146% above what 10 years ago. Phoenix, Mesa area, 134%. Miami, Fort Lauderdale, 133%. These are all 10 years ago versus 10 years ago numbers. Atlanta, Sandy Springs, 125%. Seattle, Tacoma, 123%. Riverside, San Bernardino, Southern California, 114%. Charlotte, North Carolina, 110%. Portland, Oregon, 110%. Denver, Aurora area, also Lakewood, up 108%, folks. Insane. It's like the bubble that never goes bust. Like we've talked about here many times, for many years we've been way above the price levels, and these home prices, what people are paying, are eating up the biggest portion of their income, or the biggest chunk of their income, bigger than we've ever seen. The unaffordability is the worst we've ever seen, but yet the bubble stays inflated. Because why? Because of the banks and their ability to keep the banks propped up. Let's talk about this out of CNBC. From night to Intel, CEO departures at U.S. companies hit a record this year. So if the economy was so great, why is it hitting a record this year? So let me be positive. Like I said at the beginning, I'm going to be positive. Here's my positive spin. The CEOs are not leaving because business is bad. They're leaving because they're making so much money. They're just retiring early. They're retiring early. I mean, we see some of the salaries for these CEOs. Are they just retiring early? I mean, who wants the stress of all this business environment? If you have 20, 30, 40 million dollars in the bank, just retire. Go golfing, go lay on the beach, go do what you're going to do. Go do your hobby, whatever it was, whatever you wanted to be when you were a kid. But could that be it? Is that positive spin accurate? Is that correct? Or maybe that's a negative to you. Be negative hearing that these CEOs make so much money that they could actually retire after working just a few years. To some people that may be positive, to some people that may be negative. Let's take a look at another report that I thought was pretty interesting. Sinking Colorado River will take a toll on the nation's food supply. The Colorado River, which provides water for about 15% of our country's agriculture, is shrinking. Well, let's go back to do the positive thing again here. So let me just change this around here. So it's actually not shrinking. The water is rising, and there's going to be so much water for the farms that we're going to see so much more food grown that prices for food are going to crash. So your price at the grocery store is going to drop in half. The prices at restaurants going to drop in half. So how does that sound? Does that sound better? Just being positive here, right? So instead of saying the shrinking water supply is going to cause problems for the farms, let's just change it. It's not shrinking, it's expanding. So in order to be positive, sometimes we just have to completely change the headline and just change it to be the opposite of what it really is. So that's not going to work, folks. We have to tell you the truth. It is happening, folks. I see inflationary forces still coming up in our food supply. And it's not just me that's fearful. I shouldn't say fearful. I'm aware of it. A lot of people are also aware of it because we see nobody's having kids anymore. I mean, some people are, but the birth rate is declining. It's dropping big time because people are seeing what's happening with the cost of living, and the sky's the limit. They don't see any limits for the spending that's happening. They don't see any accountability for the ones that just keep spending money. We're talking about the quote unquote leaders. And now they're talking about no debate on the debt ceiling. They want it to be unlimited and not even have a discussion or debate. Just open any credit card to infinity, to the stratosphere and beyond. Was it Buzz Lightyear? All right. I don't know if I'm getting these sayings right today, but hope you guys got the gist of what I'm talking about. Please let me know what you think about this down in the comments. And I'd like to hear you correcting me on these little sayings that I got wrong today. Let me know what you think. Happy holidays. Happy New Year coming up. We'll see you before New Year's, though. Keep stacking. Bye for now. Peace.